Fox has been asked who they think would be a good choice, and various names came up. One of them was, of course, Vivek Ramaswamy. He's made a big splash. Ron DeSantis, who's making an appearance today in South Carolina, we just found out. Obviously, Tim Scott, Byron Donalds, and a big presence here for Tulsi Gabbard. Very interesting. And Kristi Noem as well, I should say. Right. Are they all on your short list? And when can you?
So he says they're all on his short list. That was Trump last night on Fox. And then he singled out Tim Scott, audio soundbite 1, when he was asked, check this out.
And he pledged he was going to pick a female vice president in 2020. What qualities are you looking for in your vice presidential pick?
Well, always the first quality has to be somebody that you think will be a good president, because if something should happen, you have to have somebody that's going to be a great president. A lot of people are talking about that gentleman right over there. And he's been so great. He's been such a great advocate. I have to say, this is in a very positive way, Tim Scott. He has been much better for me than he was for himself.
But he's BLM light. If you guys remember the policing bill and all of that stuff that he did, he gave a lot of lip service to that. And that, to me, is no. I mean, he's real nice and all, and he campaigns like a nice guy. But he also, a lot of people viewed it as capitulation. Y'all go back and look at some of that stuff with that policing bill. Tulsi Gabbard, no. Hell no. What are people thinking? When the hell did people start going for anti-gun candidates? This is a woman who had previously voiced support for the assault weapons ban. What in the world? Jiminy Christmas. Just because she can go on Fox and talk a good game without having to address her record, that makes people think that it's acceptable? No. I think he's just keeping it out there because he wants to keep the momentum. The reason I think he was talking about Tim Scott being from South Carolina, you know what that does? That makes South Carolinian voters like him more, even though they're going for him over Haley more. That he's just keeping that out there because he doesn't want any of these guys to go against him right before he wants to tie it up after South Carolina. So very interesting. Very interesting. But in terms of his VP pick, and some of the people that I think were shortlisted are no's. Welcome back to the show. Dana Lash here with you. Top of this third hour. You can listen across the country. You can stream the radio program, the video component, channel 347, DirecTV, YouTube, and Facebook as well. I think there's two people that I think there are only two choices for him when it concerns a vice presidential pick. Really, there's three, but one will not do it. And another one may not do it. I think that he has to pick a governor. And I think it would have to, you could either look at Brian Kemp out of Georgia. Brian Kemp will not do it. Brian Kemp and Trump do not get along. So that's not ever going to happen. But you definitely lock in Georgia. Now, you might think Georgia's red. Georgia's been red. But, Marjorie Taylor Greene's district did not vote that way during that special election in 2020 when you had, what's that one crazy dude down there? Lynn Wood telling everyone not to vote, and everyone went, okay, and they didn't go out to vote. And so we lost the Senate. That happened. Yeah, that's just how it worked. I was down there. I know. It's not going to happen. But that would be, that might not be bad. Might not be bad at all. But there's a lot of bad water there. And then I think Sarah Huckabee Sanders would be a good choice. That would definitely help him, I think, with more of because you have conservatives and then you have Republicans. And I think a lot of the Republicans are already in. I think she would help with a lot of conservatives, if that makes sense. And then the other option is Ron DeSantis. And I think if I'm looking at this strategically, it's a 50-50 double-edged sword for DeSantis to do that. But it's a 50-50 double-edged sword if he doesn't do it. Because if he runs on that ticket and let's just say that nobody does anything to change the polling, and then Democrats start spending their war chest, nothing changes in the RNC, they're broke, they can't bail Trump out, nobody's got any money to spend on ads. You have all these special interest groups and PACs eating everything up. and everybody ends up having their backside handed to them, then DeSantis has that on his record. If he's the VP and Trump wins, it all depends on how that term goes. Because it's only 4 years. Then we got to do this again. We don't get 8 years. It's just 4 years. And then it depends on how that term is. Because the left will then ratchet up and they will target DeSantis just as much. Because even if it's a mildly successful term, DeSantis could easily pivot off of that and leverage himself in the White House. Because Democrats will not be able to raise up anyone other than Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer. Those are the only two they got. It's Amy Klobuchar is too unlikable. She might even be more unlikable than Hillary Clinton. I don't even think that's possible, but it may be. All they have is Gavin Newsom and Gretchen Whitmer. They don't have enough time to raise up anyone else. So if it's mildly successful, it would put DeSantis, he could run and he'd put him in the White House. And really, you could say the same for any governor. But the reason that I think it would be better for Georgia or Florida is because you have to look at the number of electoral votes and then whether or not you take that state anyway. You know what I mean? Would you take that state anyway? And would it be by a significant amount? Do not think Florida's ever safe. Florida was pretty solid blue in 2012. Only just recently have they been flipping everything to red. And that's because of their gubernatorial leadership. So it's still a smart, but then at the same time, you can't have two guys from Florida running. So that's a strike against considering DeSantis for it. Because Trump is now based in Florida. You can't have two guys from Florida running. So it makes it a little less likely. But I think those are really your only options. You can't have a Nikki Haley. Even though that might be attractive to some of Trump's insiders, and I'm hearing from folks that it is to some of the people inside his circle, because she can raise money and he's going to need it with all the legal stuff that he's got going on. He's going to have to, as Andy McCarthy said yesterday, he's going to have to be in trial every single day. He's already struggling with raising money, and we're in a period of inflation. And I think the last quarter, what is it? He raised $43 million. His legal bills were $50 million. And the RNC is a mess. And a lot of state parties are broke. Nikki Haley's been raising in some cash. Just know if she ends up being the VP pick, that's why. That it will be the only reason why. Not kidding. There are a lot of people opposed to it, but money talks. I'm just letting you know. That will be the only reason why. Now, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is good, and I think she can raise money in that. And she, I think, is a good temper to him, personality-wise. But again, from Arkansas, they're already going to vote Republican. You know, they have fewer electoral votes in some of the other states that he needs to consider pulling from. So that's kind of a strike against it. But these other people, it's a joke. I know I've criticized Vivek Ramaswamy. He seems like a nice guy. But no, you don't get to not participate in any of the biggest fights and literally donate to Democrats up until like 2017 and not really do anything and then decide that you want to run and be the general of everything. No. You got to prove yourself in the trench before you can make the people trust you to follow you. That's how I look at it. I just don't follow people blindly just because they seem to speak well or can, set up these confrontations where they come out on top. I am just not that easily persuaded to just blindly follow somebody. I gotta see them. I gotta see a record from them. I gotta see them in the trench. There is this idea that is becoming ever more prevalent on the right, where the right will easily gamble on stability by going with unknowns who a heartbeat ago were far left and then decided to go far right because frankly it's more advantageous for them to do so. And then they end up running for office and they want to take control of stuff and be a leader when they never served. If you're too damn good to serve, you're not good enough to lead. And I think that applies to all the other people whose names are not serious like the ones I had mentioned.